Well, many thanks for joining us. You're watching QTV broadcasting from the Gambia, and this is the news with me and Sumana Isonyasi. Coming up this evening, on his Meet the People tour, President Barrow and his team have arrived in the Lower River region. The Minister of Defense has reaffirmed the government's commitment to transforming the Gambia Armed Forces into a well-trained and highly motivated force. 8 soldiers handed 9-year jail terms by a court-martial have had their sentences overturned and have been set free. An organization representing migrants and domestic workers held a capacity-building program and has also launched a nationwide sensitization campaign. The National Youth Council has begun its second annual 2-day National Youth Dialogue and the second National Youth Retreat on Democracy. In international news, a growing number of countries have been closing their borders to the UK in response to what the UK's health minister has described as an out-of-control new variant of COVID-19. In a special report for QTV, we hear how some parents and children are coping with online learning forced on them by COVID-19 measures. And in sports, FIFA has filed a criminal complaint against its former president, Sepp Blatter. And qualification for under-20 AFCON scheduled for Mauritania has continued across the continent. But for more on this and other stories coming up, do stay tuned. The president and delegation on Sunday arrived in the Lower River region to a rousing welcome as he continued with his constitutionally mandated Meet the People tour. Aliou Cisse reports.
People of the Lower River region, led by their governor, gathered at the Pakaleba Bridge, which separates the region and CRR, to receive and escort the president to Jara Madina, where he held his first meeting in the region. At this meeting, several speakers took to the podium to praise what they called the good work by the president across all sectors. Nonetheless, they informed the president about the bad state of the static road networks in Jara East, particularly road connecting Jara Jasum through Jara Bureng, Sutukum to Jara Dasilame and Tosinyu Jangudi. The people of Jara East also want electricity and water supply. Mr. Bubakar Dam appealed for government's intervention in supporting the Dogoraba Community Health Center with an ambulance.
Midon jogi chadede hemo lopitan min ngala ambulance o sonno ambulance ji didi kono di fodi pani midon jidi walle godden ngon sengo ton sengo lopitan mo ambulance e ligorobe.
On agriculture, he suggested that fertilizer should be supplied during the groundnut trading season when farmers can buy the fertilizer. It was claimed at the meeting that over 500 former APRC and GDC supporters from Dongoraba and Wellingaraba communities have defected to NPP party. QTV could not independently confirm this figure. Addressing the meeting, President Barrow said the rousing welcome according to him is an indication that the people of Jara East are with him, as he encouraged them to remain steadfast behind his agenda.
2025 na kuranki nasu hare kuberu gandi munda na kuranki niya.
On the concerns raised, he reminded them that the purpose of the tour is to hear from the people what their concerns are, with a view to addressing them. On Tuesday, the president held meetings in Japini in Jara Central and Soma Town in Jara West. Reporting for QTV News from Jara Soma in the Lower River region, I am Aliou Cisse.
The Minister of Defense on Monday reaffirmed the government's commitment to transforming the Gambia Armed Forces into a well-trained and highly motivated force. He was speaking at the validation workshop for the Gambia Armed Forces Bill organized by DCAF in partnership with the Ministries of Justice and Defense. More in this report. A visibly elated Minister Fai expressed optimism that once enacted by Parliament, the new GAF bill will help transform the Gambia Armed Forces. He thanked DCAF for supporting the review of the GAF Act and for their commitment to the country's security sector reform, which he says will soon be realized.
As a Gambian, and as a patriotic Gambian for that matter, to come 35 years down the line to witness a new bill that came into place thanks to the leadership of this country and the support of partners, that we are reviewing this very important document that I was subjected to 35 years ago as a second lieutenant platoon commander, and now in 2020, Minister of Defense. And I cannot be more proud as a Gambian And I want to take the opportunity to thank all Gambians for giving us this opportunity.
Pansao Nyasi, DCAF's interim country head, highlighted the lack of clarity on specific mandates and responsibilities of the armed forces as a significant deficiency in the existing legislation governing the Gambia Armed Forces. However, he also expressed optimism with the new GAF bill, especially in addressing overlaps in functions and duplication of effort among security institutions.
It is important that some of these issues are clarified so that the work of our security institutions will become better and they can perform better to the interests of the country. And when we got this request from the Minister of Justice, DCAF did not hesitate in supporting the process. Because why? The reason is not far-fetched. We know that reviewing the laws governing the security institutions is very key if you are embarking on a security sector reform.
For Janet Salanjai, the lead national consultant, Monday's forum signals the beginning of another important phase in the country's ongoing SSR process. She says the review of the GAF Act, which has been in force for over 35 years, is crucial as it sets out the mandate, limits and terms of reference for serving members of the Gambia Armed Forces.
The expectations of the General are indeed vital for the stability of the Gambia, and we all have a stake in this process. I therefore, on behalf of the consultants, enjoin all present here today to live up to the task that we are entrusted with, to ensure that we have the necessary legal framework that will respond to the needs of the Gambia Armed Forces as highlighted in the General's expectation.
Following the change of government in January 2017, the new government launched a highly ambitious process aimed at reforming the country's security sector. In partnership with the Geneva Center for Security Sector Governance, several programs were held with stakeholders with a view to improving the Gambia Armed Forces. Meanwhile, DCAF officials revealed that a similar exercise was successfully conducted with the State Intelligence Service, and they look forward to also engaging the police along similar lines. The Gambia Court of Appeal on Monday set free 8 soldiers who were handed 9-year jail terms by a general court-martial for their alleged plan to overthrow Adama Barrow's government. The Court of Appeal declared the previous judgment of the court-martial null and void for its failure to seek written consent of the Attorney General to try the soldiers on treason charges. Mahmoud Lamin Choi reports.
The 9-year jail terms handed for these soldiers has now been cut short. This comes after another judgment from the Court of Appeal overturned the decision of the court-martial that had sentenced the soldiers. The appeal court found that the entire previous court proceedings on the charge of treason against the accused are null and void. The 8 faced 9 treason charges, resulting in their subsequent jail term sentences in May 2019. However, that decision was immediately challenged at the Court of Appeal, whose judgment today found errors on the judgment of the court-martial. 3 female judges of the appellate court have concluded that the court-martial did not have the legal jurisdiction to try the accused person on the charges of treason without securing the written consent of the Attorney General, a legal requirement for the court to proceed to a treason trial. Justice Narcissa Salawada states in the concluding part of the Court of Appeal's judgment that one cannot put something on nothing and expect it to stand. In simple terms, the view of the judges is that the General Court-Martial's judgment had no basis in law. The soldiers are now acquitted and discharged after they were arrested in 2017 over a WhatsApp audio apparently recorded them meeting and planning to topple President Adama Barrow's government. Their alleged conspiracy was that they planned to unlawfully overthrow President Barrow's government, followed by arresting all ministers, battalion commanders and senior members of the Gambia Armed Forces. These 8 soldiers are now free to go home, but this might not be the end of the legal battle, because the state could also file an appeal to the Supreme Court if it finds sufficient grounds to do so. And as the highest court in the land, this is where everything might end up between the state and the soldiers. As yet, there has been no official response to the judgment from the government. Mahmoud Lamin Choi, Qtv News.
The Network on Peace and Security for Women on Monday held a capacity building program on the rights of migrants and domestic workers, and also launched a nationwide sensitization campaign. More in this report. Speaking to journalists at the launch of a nationwide sensitization campaign aimed at raising awareness on the rights of migrants and domestic workers. Tabunjai Sar, president of the Gambian Network on Peace and Security for Women, says it is important to sensitize migrants and domestic workers on their rights as enshrined in the national labor laws. She adds that despite government ratifying several international conventions, not much effort has been made to enforce these instruments that seek to protect domestic workers.
Under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So this is why we brought them together today to enlighten them on this, but also to raise awareness for governments to take note that people that migrate and even domestic workers too have rights, and it should be respected, it should be protected and promoted.
She went on to add that a survey is being done to understand the prevalence of abuses on workers in the informal sector, especially domestic workers. On behalf of the Ministry of Women, Children and Social Welfare, Nene Ture says such projects are highly significant as they complement government's effort in empowering domestic workers and migrants.
It is important also to respect their rights, and I think the Constitution respects the rights of all people. And if you look at it, the Women's Act, which is very comprehensive, look at the rights of all women, regardless of tribe, regardless of workplaces, regardless of religion, no matter where. It's just a matter of following up on some of the issues, because the laws are not silent about it.
For members of the Network on Peace and Security for Women in the Gambia, the effective implementation of the labor laws, especially for domestic workers, remains a major concern. However, it is hoped that projects such as this one will help change the current narrative. Monday's event was also attended by Nopsweko's counterparts from Senegal. Well, from that report, we take a short commercial break, but still to come is more international and, of course, sports news when we return. Well, thanks for staying with us. Now, the National Youth Council, in partnership with UNFPA on Tuesday, began a two-day National Youth Dialogue and the second National Youth Retreat on Democracy. Omar Pijalo witnessed the opening and he now reports.
The second National Youth Retreat, organized by the National Youth Council, brought together 65 young people from across the country. The participants are mainly chairpersons of regional youth committees, youth coordinators, regional program officers, and head of selected national youth organizations. The theme for this year's retreat is promoting youth participation in decision-making processes. Welcoming the participants, Alhaji Jaju, the Executive Director of National Youth Council, said the event aims to provide a peer review platform for youth leaders and their respective organizations to review the progress registered during the year under review, and also to discuss challenges, suggest recommendations for improvement, and collectively plan for the year ahead to better serve the young people of the Gambia.
In the absence of systemic communication and interface between youth and their structures, it will be difficult to hold each other mutually accountable. This platform is created to bridge that gap and to ensure effective coordination, build synergy, and encourage cross-sectoral collaboration amongst ourselves, especially as young people. At NYC, we are pleased to initiate and lead this process. Time has come for us to embrace one another and work as a team to achieve our collective goal of investing in youth now for a greater future.
On behalf of the Minister of Youth and Sports, Usman Fati, Chairman National Youth Council, described the gathering as significant for many reasons, noting it is the second time NYC has organized such an event to directly engage with its members. He added that young people cannot hold their leaders or constituents accountable if they are not accountable to themselves first.
Youth's engagement in the peace
Pre, during, and post-elections, our participation in politics are key factors not only for democratic consolidation processes, but also for everlasting peace and stability of the country. More so, elections in many African countries, including the Gambia, have been marred by violence, and although the popular stereotype depicts youth as perpetrators and victims to conflict, this trend poses a serious threat to peace and security of the country.
Fatima Jaju, a participant, said the role of young people in the development of the country is significant and therefore they should undertake their responsibility as citizens. She is hopeful that at the end of the 2 days, she will be equipped with the necessary information to fully participate in elections and decision-making processes.
With this national dialogue, this will help change our perceptions or change our ways of voting or change our ways of doing elections or going into elections and be more aware and conscious on how we are going to go through our elections.
The 2-day youth retreat is timely and crucial as democracy and development are very crucial phenomena in any progressive society. When people, especially youth, understand and appreciate democracy and operate within the confines of its principles, that society could bring about a tolerant, secured, peaceful, and inclusive era in terms of representation and decision-making processes. Reporting for Qtv News, I am Omar P. Jallo.
Sharing Wonders, a UK-based charity, on Tuesday inaugurated a 4-classroom block at Al Wafa Islamic School in Brikama, Jeddah. The school teaches in both Arabic and English. Babukarsi reports.
Al Wafa Islamic School was built last year by Sharing Wonders charity and currently has 480 students enrolled doing both Arabic and English. The school is now expected to enroll more students following the addition of more space. Salman Sise, the principal of Al Wafa Islamic School, gave some background information of the school.
I am very happy, like I said, Al Wafa Islamic School was initiated 1 year back, and today we have more than 580 students. And among those 180 students, 500 students, we have a total number of 216 boys from the 518 students. And the school taught both English and Arabic. So in the normal school hours, we taught English and Arabic syllabus. And children do go home and come back in the afternoon to learn Quran as well.
Aman Ali, the director of operations for Sharing Wonders, was delighted with the success registered by the school since its inception.
In this life, being in a good environment is a blessing. And alhamdulillah, from what I can see, this area of Brikama, Jeddah, is a good environment. But the rest is actually up to you. Whether you're 3 years old, or 7 years old, or 14 years old. It's through your own hard work that you will make something of yourselves in this life. So I would encourage you, please, that whilst mashallah you have wonderful facilities, you have wonderful teachers and support staff, you have a wonderful community behind you.
Buba Jallo, the principal of Gambia College, thanked Sharing Wonders for helping to change children's lives.
You may not know in the beginning what you have done, but you have transformed lives. And the transformation that you are going to give to the kids of the Gambia will not be seen today, but it will be something that would go on and on. Because education is a transformative process. It's like the schools are the factories for human beings. You get your raw products, which are the kids. They are not tabula rasas as some would believe. They already have something in them, because learning starts even at the womb.
Bakari Tambedu, the Principal Education Officer, Region 2, and the guest speaker of the event, said the Regional Education Directorate is delighted to be associated with Al Wafa Islamic School.
Education is very, very important, and it's supposed to be the business of everybody. It's very expensive. No one can do it alone. This is why people should put their hands together to provide access for education. That is what is happening at Al-Wafa Madrasa School. I am made to understand it's a bilingual school, both English and Arabic. When I arrived at the school ground, as an educationist, we do observe a lot of things when we step into a school ground. Because once you step into school, at a casual observation, you can notice the discipline of the school and students.
The event also witnessed the first graduation and certification of the school's nursery batch, who will be starting grade 1. According to Sharing Wonders, the school is sponsored by philanthropists from the UK and the Asia, with the sole aim of supporting needy children. Babu Karsi, QTV News.
Over 70,000 dollars worth of items were donated on Tuesday to the maternity ward of the Serekunda General Hospital by Japale Jigen, a non-profit making association. Lole M. Kamra tells us more.
The items donated include curtains, sanitizers, bed sheets, water dispensers, maternity pads, baby weighing scales, blood pressure machines, baby diapers, among other valuables. The aim is to equip the labor ward to help women during and after delivery. Presenting the items to the hospital management, Nene Ilyas Ba, the public relations officer of Japale Jigen, outlined the important role the association has been engaged in since its inception 2 years ago. According to her, their aim is to help bring comfort to the lives of their fellow women, especially at local hospitals. Furthermore, she said that the association has conducted a series of activities, part of them the Sponsor a Basket campaign organized last year, where 150 baskets worth more than $150,000 was distributed to various hospitals and clinics in the country. Madam Ba thanked the Q Group and other corporate sponsors for a timely intervention.
For us, it's not much, but I guess for the patients that are going to be receiving the gifts, it can not only change permanently, but at least for a day or so, which we are grateful for. We appreciate the fact that we've been supported by the sponsors. We're grateful to all the sponsors, both the ones that are locally here and the ones that are abroad.
Receiving the items, Fatu Cham, a midwife at Serekunda Maternity Ward, expressed appreciation to Japale Jigen, who she said have been supporting them since 2018. She prayed for the association to grow from strength to strength in helping people.
We definitely appreciative. Like we always say, health is wealth, and health is everybody's business, especially if you are helping women. Women are very vulnerable, they are vulnerable. If you help a woman, you help a whole nation. So definitely, if you people are women and you take that bold initiative in order to help your fellow women, definitely we are really appreciative. We are also receiving it, but we are receiving it with joy, because definitely it's also not easy for somebody to donate and ask you, what do you want? Some people will just donate, but you people, you did not do that. You come and ask what were our needs, and we spelled it out, and definitely you work towards it. So on behalf of the hospital management and the maternity unit, and on my own behalf as the in charge of the maternity unit, we are saying a very, very big thank you.
Keba Mane, the chief executive officer of Serekunda Hospital, said the gesture will be of great help to the women.
These are very valuable materials that is definitely going to impact on their health. We are all yearning to improve on our health service delivery, and government alone cannot do it alone. The hospital cannot do it alone, so we need partnership. And Carnifing General Hospital is very open, very, very, very open to partnership. And we look forward to more partners to come and emulate your gesture. This is a great donation, a worthy donation that will go a long way.
Japale Jigen is a non-profit making association formed in 2018 by a group of women to promote the welfare of their fellow women. The association is focused on complementing government efforts in maternal health care through the provision of materials and other support for maternity centers, mothers and babies. For QTV News, Lolly M. Kamara.
A 7-month-old baby has been admitted to Gambisara Health Center after sustaining serious burns on her face caused by hot water. The parents are in dire need of help to care for her medical bills. Our reporter Fode Mane visited the hospital and his report is narrated by Babukar C.
According to Nyuma Sidibe, the child's mother, the baby sustained the injuries on Friday evening in Gambisara after falling into a cooking pot containing hot water. According to her mom, she was being cared for by her older sister when the incident happened. Lamin Jata, the officer in charge of Gambisara Health Center, said the baby sustained first-degree burns, which affected her eyes. Mr. Jata is optimistic that the child will recover after a remarkable improvement in the course of her treatment.
When the assessment was done, so we realized that it's a first-degree burn, so which means it was the burn is not that deep. But initially, so the eyes was just affected. It was swollen all over. So to the extent that the relatives were even afraid, thinking that she might even lose the eye. But nonetheless, when we made our investigation, we realized that it's a first-degree burn. So we also do some investigation like the hemoglobin. We check the hemoglobin, then it was around 8.8. We also do RDT for her, which is routine sometimes because we are still in the malaria peak season. So we have that for most of this under 5. So the RDT was negative. Normally, we do what we call a daily evaluation in which we just assess to see how she was yesterday and today. But to be frank, the child is progressing.
Jata also advised parents, especially mothers, to be vigilant and take great care of their children as they are more vulnerable.
The general advice is definitely parents, I will not say women, parents, we should all take ownership of our children. We should support them in whatever way. Because may God forbid, when the child happen to lost the eye or any part of the body, and the child grew like that, in the near future, if she realized that on the whole, this was not something that occurred naturally, it was somehow artificial, the child can live with a traumatized life.
Muhammadu Sidibe, the baby's father, called for support to help his daughter. All we need is support for the child's feeding to medication. I thank the hospital staff for their tireless efforts towards the child's treatment. A first-degree burn is an injury that affects the first layer of the skin. However, some superficial burns can be quite large or painful, especially if it occurs in larger areas of the skin. Although the child's health condition has been improving according to the hospital authorities, her parents are calling for support, fearing that the child may lose her sight. Babukar C, QTV News.
Well, we will take another commercial break and the news continues with international and sports news when we return. Welcome back and over now to international news. A growing number of countries have been closing their borders to the UK in response to what the UK's health minister has described as an out-of-control new variant of COVID-19 that scientists say is 70% more transmissible than other strains. South Africa has also reported a new strain. Here is a special report by QTV's Modumboj.
First, it was the European countries. Then the rest of the world followed suit, temporarily banning flights from the UK. The speed of the travel bans perhaps matching the severity of the situation as they followed the announcement of the UK's health minister that a new variant of COVID-19, up to 70% more transmissible than other strains, is getting out of control, spreading rapidly in London and the southeast. According to reports, cases of the same strain have also been reported in other countries. Britain's Prime Minister Boris Johnson on Saturday introduced a new, much stricter level of lockdown restrictions for London and the southeast, and tightened restrictions for all of England over the festive period, thereby scrapping his government's planned relaxation of the rules over the Christmas period. Officials also expect significant disruption to UK's channel ports, particularly the port of Dover, on the UK's south coast, the most important trade artery in the UK, where 10,000 lorries pass through every day, delivering 20% of goods bought and sold in the United Kingdom. Officials are uncertain whether the new strain originated in Britain, but currently it is causing more than 60% of infections in London. According to British authorities, the variant is unusually highly mutated, but there is no evidence yet to suggest the variant makes the infection more deadly, and at least for now, the authorities are confident that the developed vaccines will almost certainly work against it. This new fast-spreading variant of COVID-19 has also been detected in several European countries and Australia. Authorities in South Africa, which was already the African country hardest hit by the virus, have also reported the detection of a new strain, which is dominant among the recently confirmed infections, but emphasize that it is not the same as the one in the UK. All the same, countries such as Israel, Turkey, Germany, Saudi Arabia and Switzerland have imposed travel bans on South Africa, which has seen a resurgence of the disease with higher numbers of confirmed cases, hospitalizations and deaths. South African scientists say they are currently studying if the vaccines against COVID-19 will also offer protection against the country's new strain. The most concerning element, according to experts, is that if the virus changes to the extent that it eludes the full effect of the vaccine, then a phenomenon known as vaccine escape happens, exacerbating an already awful situation. Nearly 1 year on from the COVID-19 outbreak, as the new vaccines began to show a silver lining, a new unknown appears to be gathering on the horizon. For QTV News, I am Mamadou Mbouch.
Now, in a special report for QTV, we hear from Hawa Sise in the USA how some parents and the children are coping with online learning forced on them by COVID-19 measures.
As many students start online classes due to the pandemic, parents have to carry on a new role to monitor their kids during these virtual classes.
6.
Thank you.
Now I get it now.
Morgan Snellen, first grade teacher at Aurora Collegiate Academy, states that some parents are present during the first section of class for the instructions.
Like I have some students who parent will sit there, I know for sure the entire 8 to 12 session. And then I have other parents who will log them in at 8 o'clock and walk away.
On Tuesday, so they have 5 altogether.
Fatoumata Silla, mother of first grader Abubakar Tirera, said it was challenging in the first few weeks.
I think virtual classes, in the beginning, it was a challenge. It seemed like it was the longest of hours. 5 is what?
6.
Thank you.
Snellen states that she keeps her lessons engaging with the whiteboard and various activities like bingo.
People that's on, in the call to draw on your screen, they love that. And I kept the bingo cards on the screen. And
despite the interactive learning, some parents are not satisfied with the school hours.
Some can't even go to work. Some can't even do their daily routines outside of the house. You literally have to stay in the house with the child.
This has led one Shelby County school parent, Ariana Onley, to create a petition that has received over 20,000 signatures.
But I hope that they're doing something behind the scenes to work something out for the parents.
In a statement, Shelby County Schools said it must ensure the Tennessee Department of Education requirements are met. Despite the interactive learning and petition, when it comes to first grader Abubakar Tirera, he just wants to go back to in-person classes.
Because I want to go back to my indoor class. Because I like that class more better.
Why not virtual classes?
It takes too long to get out of school.
Reporting for QTV News, I am Power Cisse.
And now on to some sports news. FIFA has lodged a criminal complaint against its former president, Sepp Blatter, linked to the finances of the FIFA Museum in Zurich, Switzerland.
FIFA has lodged a criminal complaint against its former president, Sepp Blatter, linked to the finances of the FIFA Museum in Zurich, Switzerland. The project at the center of the action is the FIFA Museum, and Blatter and other former FIFA officials are implicated. This is the latest allegation of financial wrongdoing against Blatter, who resigned his presidential post in 2015 following a corruption scandal. That scandal resulted in him currently serving a 6-year ban from all football activities. The 84-year-old has always denied any wrongdoing. FIFA, football's world governing body, say Blatter's previous administration cost them 500 million Swiss francs to renovate a building that the organization does not own, while also locking itself into a long-term rental agreement on unfavorable terms. Given the massive cost associated with this museum, as well as the general way of working of the previous FIFA management, a forensic audit was conducted in order to find out what really happened here, said Alasdair Bell, FIFA's Deputy Secretary General, Administration. The museum project began in 2013, 2 years before Blatter, who was FIFA president for 17 years, announced his resignation. I quote, "That audit revealed a wide range of suspicious circumstances and management failures, some of which may be criminal in nature and need to be properly investigated by relevant authorities." The complaint has been sent to the Zurich prosecutor, and FIFA said it will continue to cooperate with the authorities in Switzerland and elsewhere so that those people who damage football are held accountable for their actions. End of quote. In response, Blatter's lawyer, Lawrence Ernie, says FIFA's accusations are baseless and vehemently repudiated. For QTV News, Lolly M. Kamara.
While still in football, qualification for the Under-20 AFCON gathers pace as more regions conclude or commence their qualification tournaments. Well, more in this report.
Ghana recovered from going a goal down to beat Burkina Faso 2-1 and win the WAFU Zone B Under-20 Championship trophy at the Esther Charles de Gaulle in Porto Novo on Sunday. Precious Boa steered for Ghana's Black Satellite, setting up the equalizer before firing the winner from a free kick to hand his country the title in the Benin capital. The tournament was also to decide who would represent WAFU Zone B at the Total Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations Mauritania 2021. Gambia have already qualified as winners of WAFU Zone A. Although the Ghanaians were crowd champions, Burkina Faso midfielder Bothu swept all the individual awards as he was named the best player of the tournament and added the top scorer award for scoring 3 goals in the tournament. The two teams will represent WAFU Zone B at the Total Under-20 AFCON in Mauritania next February. Ghana's goalkeeper also had reasons to celebrate as he was voted goalkeeper of the tournament. In the Central African Zone, Cameroon will face the Central African Republic in the final of the UNIFA tournament on Tuesday, 22nd December at the Novo Estadio in Malabo. The two finalists have secured their place for the Total Under-20 AFCON finals, having finished top of their respective groups. Central African Republic came top of Group A, which includes host Equatorial Guinea and Chad. Amongst their victories, Cameroon beat Congo 3-1 and topped Group B on 4 points. The Republic of Congo came out on top in the clash of the two Congos, beating DR Congo 2-1. However, neither side made it through, which meant the Corps of Cameroon remained at the top of the group and proceeded to the final. Babakar C, QTV News.
Well, I'm afraid that's all about it, but before we take a leave of you, here's a recap for main headlines. On his Meet the People tour, President Barrow and his team have arrived in the Lower River region. The Minister of Defense has reaffirmed the government's commitment to transforming the Gambia Armed Forces into a well-trained and highly motivated force. 8 soldiers handed 9-year jail terms by a court-martial have had their sentences overturned and have been set free. an organization representing migrants and domestic workers, held a capacity building program and has also launched a nationwide sensitization campaign. The National Youth Council has begun its second annual two-day National Youth Dialogue and the second National Youth Retreat on Democracy. In international news, a growing number of countries have been closing their borders to the UK in response to what the UK's health minister has described as an out-of-control new variant of COVID-19. In a special report for QTV, we heard how some parents and children are coping with online learning forced on them by COVID-19 measures. And in sports, FIFA has filed a criminal complaint against its former president, Sepp Blatter. And the qualification for Under-20 AFCON, scheduled for Mauritania, has continued across the continent. Well, that's all we have for you in this edition of news, but do join us at 10 p.m. for another bulletin. Until then, thanks for watching.